Last video, I told you why Bitcoin was created as a response to the 2008 financial crisis and a broken banking system. This video, we're here to talk about what Bitcoin actually is and how it works. And I promise, no coding or finance degree required, no complicated math, just plain English. By the end of this video, you're going to understand how Bitcoin works better than most people. Let's do this. Welcome back to Decoded with Laura. So far, we've talked about my journey with Bitcoin and what the history of it is and why it was created. Now it's time to answer the question that everybody asks. What actually is Bitcoin? Is it a currency? Is it digital gold? Is it just code? Yes, to all of that. But let's break it down. At its core, Bitcoin is digital money, but it's not like the dollars in your bank account. Those are just numbers in a bank's database that represent physical dollars. Bitcoin is different. It exists only digitally, and therefore it doesn't need a bank to exist or function. Think of it this way. Bitcoin is to money what email is to mail. You don't need the post office to send an email. You don't need a bank to send Bitcoin. It's peer-to-peer, person to person, directly. But here's the question everybody asks. If there's no bank, who keeps track of it? Who makes sure people aren't cheating? Who makes sure I just can't copy my Bitcoin and spend it twice? That's where the magic happens, and it all comes down to something called the blockchain. The blockchain is simply a public ledger, a record book. But instead of one bank keeping the transactions of their private database, the blockchain is public. Anyone can see it, anyone can verify it. Imagine a notebook where every Bitcoin transaction ever made is written down, every single one from 2009 till today. Laura sent 0.5 Bitcoin to Sarah. Mike sent 1 Bitcoin to David. Sarah sent 0.01 Bitcoin to Laura. Every transaction is recorded permanently, in order for everyone to see. Now, instead of one person holding this notebook, imagine thousands of copies of this notebook exist all around the world, and they all have to match. They all have to agree on what's written in them. That's the blockchain, a distributed public ledger. No single person controls it. No single institution can change it. And because there are thousands of copies, you can't cheat the system. So, let's say I want to send you some Bitcoin. Here's what happens. I create a transaction. Laura sends 0.5 Bitcoin to your Bitcoin address. That transaction gets broadcast to the Bitcoin network. Thousands of computers around the world running the Bitcoin program. These computers collect recent transactions and group them together into what's called a block. Think of that as a page in the notebook. The computers race to verify this block and add it to the blockchain. Once it's added, it's permanent. It can't be undone. It's part of the record forever. The whole process takes about 10 minutes on average. Now here's where it gets cool. These computers verifying the transactions, who are they? And why would they do this? These computers are called miners, and they're competing to verify transactions and add new blocks to the blockchain. Why? Because they get rewarded with every newly created Bitcoin. It's like a lottery. Solve the puzzle first, get the reward. But here's the thing. The puzzle is really, really hard. It requires massive computing power. These miners are running thousands of calculations per second trying to get their answer first. It's designed this way on purpose. The difficulty ensures that the blocks are added roughly every 10 minutes, not faster, not slower. The system adjusts the difficulty to maintain that pace. This is how Bitcoin is created. Not by a central bank printing it, not by a government issuing it, but by miners competing to verify transactions and secure the network. And in exchange, they receive newly created Bitcoin. This is called proof of work, and you have to prove that you did the computational work to earn the reward. Here's the most important part. Remember last video when we talked about how the Federal Reserve can just print money whenever they want and how that devalues your saving? Bitcoin doesn't do that. There will ever only be 21 million Bitcoin. Ever. That number is hard-coded into the system, and you can't change it. No one can create more. This is what makes Bitcoin scarce. Think about gold. Why is it so valuable? Partly because it's useful, but most importantly, because it's scarce. There's only so much gold in the earth and it's hard to dig it up. You can't just create more. Bitcoin is the same, digitally scarce. And that scarcity is guaranteed by the code itself. Right now, about 19.8 million Bitcoin have been created. That means there are only 1.2 million left to be mined. And here's the really clever part of the code. Bitcoin doesn't release all 21 million at once. It's released slowly over time through those mining rewards. Every 4 years, the mining reward gets cut in half. This is called the halving. When Bitcoin started in 2009, miners got 50 Bitcoin for verifying a block. In 2012, that reward halved to 25 Bitcoin. 2016, it went to 12.5 Bitcoin. 2020, you guessed it, 6.25. In 2004, it halved to 3.125 Bitcoin. This will keep happening every 4 years until around 2140, when the last Bitcoin will be mined. After that, no new Bitcoin will ever be created. Why does this matter? Because it makes Bitcoin predictable. Unlike traditional currencies where central banks can decide to print money whenever they want, with Bitcoin, everyone knows exactly how much exists and how much will exist in the future. It's programmed scarcity, mathematical certainty. So where does Bitcoin actually live? Where is it stored? This is where people get confused. Bitcoin doesn't exist in any one place. It exists everywhere and nowhere at the same time. That public ledger, the blockchain, that ledger is stored on thousands of computers all over the world. Anyone can run this software. Anyone can host a copy of the blockchain. Right now, there are about 15 to 20,000 computers running full copies of the Bitcoin blockchain. That's 15 to 20,000 independent copies of every transaction ever made. This is what makes Bitcoin resilient. You can't shut it down. There's no central server to attack. There's no headquarters to raid, and there's no CEO to arrest. To shut down Bitcoin, you'd have to shut down every single computer running the software all around the world at the same time. It's distributed. It's decentralized. This is completely different from traditional money. Your dollars in the bank, they exist in the bank's database. If the bank's computers goes down, your access to your money goes down. Bitcoin doesn't have that problem. The network is the storage, and the network is everywhere. So if Bitcoin lives on this distributed network, how do you own Bitcoin? What does it mean to have Bitcoin? When you own Bitcoin, what you actually own is the key to access it. Think of it like this. Your Bitcoin is like your email address. It's public. Anyone can send Bitcoin to it. Your private key is your email password. It's a secret. Only you should have it. And whoever has this key can access and spend the Bitcoin at that address. That's why when you hear people say, not your keys, not your crypto, if you don't control the private key, you don't really control the Bitcoin. Someone else does. When you keep Bitcoin on exchanges like Coinbase, Kraken, or even Venmo or PayPal, that exchange controls the keys. They're holding it for you like a bank, which is convenient, but goes against the whole point of Bitcoin, being your own bank. When you move Bitcoin to your own wallet, especially a hardware wallet, you control the keys. That Bitcoin is truly yours. No one can freeze it. No one can take it. Only you can access it. Okay, so let's put this all together. Bitcoin is digital money that exists on a public ledger called a blockchain. The blockchain is stored on thousands of computers all over the world. No central control. New Bitcoin is created through mining, computers competing to verify transaction and add blocks to the blockchain. There will ever only be 21 million Bitcoin released slowly over time through mining rewards that halve every 4 years. You own Bitcoin by controlling the private key to your Bitcoin address. No bank needed, no government needed, just code, math, and a distributed network. This is why Bitcoin is revolutionary. It's money that exists outside the traditional system, money that can't be printed away, money that you can truly own and control. Now, I know this is a lot, and honestly, I've just scratched the surface. There is so much more to how Bitcoin works, but you don't need to know and understand every detail to benefit from it or use it. Just like you don't need to understand how email servers work to send an email. You don't need to understand TCP/IP protocols to browse the internet. What matters is understanding the core concept. Bitcoin is digital money. It's scarce. It's decentralized. It's transparent. You can own it directly and be your own bank. These are the things that make Bitcoin different from every other form of money in human history. Next video, we're going to talk about the mistakes I made when I started with Bitcoin and crypto. Things I wish someone had told me, the lessons I learned, and why. Because understanding what Bitcoin is, that's step one. Not losing your Bitcoin, that's step two. If this is making sense, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and let me know. What part of Bitcoin is still confusing to you? What part do you want me to explain further in videos? What do you want me to explain in future videos? And if you're finding this helpful, share it with someone who's been asking you about Bitcoin.